To all things housed in her silence, nature offers a violence, the bear that keeps to his own line, the wolf that seeks always its own kind. The world that hardens is a harsher winter holds. The parent forced to eat its young before it grows. Every bird gone unheard, starving where the ground is froze. The winter sunrise, red on white, like blood upon the snow. Blood upon the snow. Blood upon the snow. Blood upon the snow. It's not my arms that will fail me, but this world takes more strength than it gave me. The trees deny themselves nothing that makes them grow. No rainfall, no sunshine, no blood upon the snow. Blood upon the snow. Blood upon the snow. Blood upon the
Yes, sir. It's here, baby. Welcome in, folks. Welcome to the 1st&LONG show. I am your co-host, Marcus Mason. How you doing, buddy?
Man, doing great as always. Ready to get started. We had the appetizer last week. We got week 0 in just a few days ago, really, as we're recording here on a Monday. Now it's time for the full course. Now it's time for just a whopper. We got 5 days straight of football. Man, I'm excited. You know, I forget how exciting this is year in and year out until it comes and it's right around the corner. And man, I can't wait to start watching some football and having some film to unpack.
But I want to take this moment to ask everybody to please go ahead and like and subscribe to the video. If you're watching this, you're a college football fan, you clicked on this for a reason, just come hang out with us. We're learning how to do all this production stuff, but we've been watching football for a long time, and we'd love for you to come watch with us and come join the show whenever we do these live shows, and tell us how we're wrong and tell us all about your team, because we'd love to hear it and we'd love to talk with all you folks. And there's nothing we appreciate more than you guys coming and hanging out with us, because doing this every day, we don't make $1, but it's something fun that we do, and we enjoy it. So come have some fun with us, and let's watch some football. And without further ado, man, let's get into it. What you say?
Mark, real quick, I'm being summoned. Apparently it's an emergency, so let me take this call real quick and I'll be right back on.
Okay. Yeah, so let's keep it moving, folks, and we'll wait on Mason to get back and talk some football in the meantime. So week 1 matchup. So on Thursday, the 31st, at 8 p.m., we've got Florida at Utah. And Utah's a 6.5-point favorite. It's a 45.5-point over/under. You know, I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like this is going to be a low-scoring game. So I'm thinking maybe 45.5. I know that's a low number, but I could even see this game being like 17-14. I really could. You know, I definitely don't see these teams airing it out or anything like that. So, you know, one of the interesting tidbits that I had seen was that Utah has lost the first game each year since 2019. And in some of those years, they lost their first 2 games. So there's something to that. Utah has started slow and finished strong every single year. And I believe that Utah has got a very, very physical front. Um, they always have very physical lines of scrimmage. And they feel like they've got a power run game. You know, you listen to these coaches talk, and they're going to rely on a power run game to feed this offense this year. And one thing that everybody was asking about was Cam Rising, right? Is Cam Rising going to be back for the game? Well, they released the depth chart, and he was listed as the starter on the depth chart. And so and him and the tight end that both were dealing with the knee issues are both listed as starters on the depth chart. And so it's looking like they're going to be able to get the start, which is great for Utah. They're going to need somebody to throw play action and things like that whenever they're running the ball like that. I wouldn't expect to see Cam Rising running around a whole lot. I don't expect him to be out there getting hit real hard and things like that. But you've got 3 backup quarterbacks, and it looks like Brendan Rose is going to be the backup if something does happen, and you know Rising can't finish the game or make the start. We don't know if he played, I think, a little bit last year. We don't know much about him, but the coaches feel really confident that he could come in and run the program. And you've got Nate Johnson and Bryson Barnes as well. Barnes, I think, was the backup last year and played some. Brendan Rose is actually a freshman, I believe, so hasn't played, but has got more of an side. It sounds like. I expect Devon Vele to have a pretty big game. And a big season. This is somebody that had a lot of production last year, and he will be the wide receiver 1 for Utah. And Micah Pittman comes in from FSU. So you've got like a 1-2 punch that going on with the and here comes Mason back. You've got a 1-2 punch with the wide receivers that I think is going to probably be able to get this offense on the right track and complement that power run game. Florida, on the other hand, I don't see any wide receivers that are just going to bust the game out, and I don't think that that's the plan for Florida. I think the strategy is power running, and they lose a lot of their offensive line, which worries me. But with that being said, I don't think Florida's cupboard is completely full of pass catchers and things. So, whereas they do have a great running back room, you got Montrell Johnson, Trevor Etienne, and Cam Carroll that came in from Tulane. You've got 3 guys that are like a sure thing at running back, and I expect Florida to get behind those guys, and that's going to be their offense this year. I really think so. Graham Mertz is not necessarily a stand in the shotgun and throw 50 times a game. I don't think that that's going to be the strategy. So, with all that being said, I feel like this Florida and Utah matchup with the 45.5 over/under probably going to be a play for me on the betting show on Friday. I'm probably going to go under that. I think, like I said, with the physical styles that these two are expected to run, it's going to be run the football. The clock is already running this year at a faster pace. The games are going to be a little bit shorter. I think 45.5, while it is a low number, I think this game could be won 20-17, something like that. Yeah. So I really honestly can see Florida covering in this game. but not winning, and the over under, the total number going under. How do you feel about this game? I've got Utah winning but not covering. How do you feel?
Oh man, I am very perplexed. I saw Cam Rising said that he was going to play.
You missed this whenever I was just saying. So
Okay.
they let their depth chart out and listed him
that.
as the starter.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that means. That doesn't mean anything. This isn't the NFL. You don't have to say somebody's hurt. You know,
Right.
they could put anybody as starting quarterback on the depth chart and them not start. So, but for what it's worth, the tight end and the quarterback are on the starting roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I assume he's going to play. You know, he just tore his ACL in January though, so how much of Cam Rising do we really see? Because you know, this is a guy who, I mean, we've all seen the highlight play. I just made a hype video, you know, with him in it, where he gets his freaking block knocked off and goes spinning across the sideline. But you know, and we just know him as a physical quarterback, or a running quarterback, and somebody who's not afraid to carry the rock. And you shouldn't see that. He should be more of a pocket. He should have more of a pocket presence, and you know, be able to scramble every now and then. But from what I heard from him, he sounds confident that he's healthy. I think the words that he used was, you know, I'm going to have to trust people who get paid more than I do, you know, for their for their information, or something like that. Anyways, and so he was saying basically, at least I took from that some people are saying that he may not should play. Or should do certain things differently, but we'll see. This was a really fun game last year. This was like, man, this is what college football is all about. Teams going across the country to play each other, you know, literally from one end of the country to the other, from one corner to the other, you know, and gosh, it's exciting. It's going to be exciting this year. I do think that Utah will win this game. I think that, you know, you see on your screen right there, number 15, Richardson was a big factor in this game last year for Florida, and they were barely able to etch out a victory. So I'm excited to watch it. You know, that they got to go to Utah this year. I think it's going to be completely different. Not going to be at home in the swamp. And I just don't think that Florida is going to have much of an offense. They might be a lot better on defense, but I'm with you. I think that the play here is the under 45.5, which is a pretty low number. I think that's a solid line. I'm not like rushing to bet it, but maybe after, you know, thinking about it for a little bit, it may be a solid play.
Anybody who's betting on that number, you should wait, because I think with it being such a low number, the number will probably come up closer to game time as people bet. And therefore, if you're going to bet the under, I would wait and let that number come up a point or two, give yourself an extra point or two, probably bet it on Friday. Anytime a line is this low, typically people come in and bust the over, especially just the more casual betting people. They'll come in and bet that number up for you, and then at the end of the week you can go snatch your under. So let that be a lesson to everybody. You know, a lot of times if you're betting overs, let's do that earlier in the week, and if you're betting unders, let's do that later in the week, and let the numbers kind of situate, you know, whatever direction they're going to go. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Florida's going to have a good offense, but at the same time, this is going to be both teams trying to give each other a knuckle sandwich, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's two physical teams that are going to run right at each other. Utah has got the much better pass catchers, and but Florida is going to have a pretty good secondary. I feel like I feel like the defense is going to be probably middle of the pack. Honestly, all their transfers that were highly rated were on the defense. So I think you're going to see Florida go to the Billy Napier way of football, you know, whenever he was in the CUSA. And I think it's going to be, the Sun Belt. You're going to see a team that's focused on stopping the run and running the football, and which is the basics of having a good team. And they're going to try to slowly but surely build this Florida team from the inside out. But I don't feel like they're ready to go to Utah. We're looking at these highlights, though. Florida wasn't even ranked last year.
Yeah.
And then they go into Utah, who's a top 10 team, and, take care of business. And so I'm skeptical to say that Utah can cover this, but I do feel like it's going to be a good game and probably going to come in under those numbers.
And speaking of numbers that I would go under, I don't know if you talked about it yet, but it doesn't sound like you have. The Nebraska-Minnesota game, also at 8:05. This is going to be a really fun game to watch. Minnesota is without. Should still be should still have a strong rushing presence. In a PJ Flex system. And then you got on the other side, Nebraska and Matt Rule in his first season. And he's done a lot to change that roster and brought in some really good talent. It's always tough for a coach in his first year, kind of installing a new system. I think that Minnesota is the favorite for a reason. They are a 7-point favorite. I do think that they win this game. And I don't really know what to expect from Nebraska. I don't really have any sort of feel for them. It's all new. It's all new to me, you know. But let's see what they're able to do. I'm really excited about it. I've been kind of paying attention to this whole Matt Rule hire and everybody that they've brought in. They got a few guys from Georgia. They've got some talent. They've brought in a guy from Alabama, Michigan. I mean, they've done a good job of getting talent from the programs that they want to be like, right? And does it change their identity right away? Probably not. But there are some things to watch in this Nebraska team right away. I wouldn't write that game off as one that just doesn't get flipped to, between it and the Florida and Utah game.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what to expect when Nebraska. I don't know a ton about Minnesota other than the PJ Fleck train, or should I say boat. Minnesota's a 7.5-point favorite, and the over/under for the game is 43.5. So obviously Vegas is seeing a low-scoring game. Two teams that are going to be running the football clearly, and 7.5. I mean, if I'm not betting this game for disclaimer purposes, I'm staying away from this one. But I mean, Minnesota 7.5. That half is kind of tough. Maybe the Nebraska fans will bet that down to 7. And if it got down to 7, I would take Minnesota.
It is at 7 on Bet Now right now. So
it changed from last night then.
Yeah. So I think that's what's happening.
So that's good. That's a good thing for anybody that's betting the game, that take that hook off of there. You're more likely to hit a push on a 7. Obviously, you can't push at a 7.5, but a 7 is a good number, and give yourself a little bit of insurance, I feel like, on that. So with all that being said, I don't know what to expect with Nebraska at all. That Matt Rule comes in as the new coach, and it took him a year to get Baylor going, and Baylor was going through some things that he's not going to be going through at Nebraska. But regardless, it's still a rebuild, and I am a little bit skeptical, but very interested to see what each of these teams looks like this year, as far as in the Big Ten. Or Minnesota in the Big Ten. NC State at UConn. NC State is only a 15-point favorite at UConn. Yeah. Isn't that weird?
I think the market's correcting itself before Connecticut, this year, and Jim Mora, over there had a pretty good season last year, and I think that the market's kind of getting ahead of that and saying, yeah, we're not gonna be so sure on this, and maybe people will still bet NC State to cover, and maybe that's what they're thinking, Gosh, I don't know. I'd be hard pressed to take Connecticut in the points.
I think NC State's going to be kind of sneaky decent this year.
Sneaky good.
Honestly,
Yeah. I could see it.
They're always physical. They've got some physical presence on each line. But like you said, Connecticut was the talk. Was the talk of the last part of the year as far as the small teams go.
Yeah.
And they fooled around with some realignment and things like that, and didn't come through this year. But it definitely is a team that's on the rise, and I don't know what Connecticut did to deserve NC State coming to their place. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't understand why
True.
NC State would allow that to happen. Why would you do a home and home with UConn in football? I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with agreement they have with basketball. Also, I'm not totally sure, but yeah, NC State's a 15-point favorite. If I had to bet this game, I'd bet NC State. But that's a big number there, and the one it's 15, it's not 14, so you're not likely to hit a push on that. And with it being a 46.5 point over under, I guess they're saying that it's going to be a low scoring game, but a large spread for a low scoring game. So interesting numbers there from Vegas on that one. We already went over Nebraska and Minnesota and Florida and Utah. So that takes us into Friday's games. Remember, all those games were on Thursdays. That was on Thursday. And this is the opening weekend, week 1. So we're having games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So we're going to go over each day of week 1 here. Friday, starting at 7:05 p.m., Miami of Ohio and Miami, Florida. Miami, the U is a 17-point favorite in that one. Central Michigan and Michigan State. Michigan State's a 14.5-point favorite on that one. And Louisville, Georgia Tech. You got Louisville as an 8-point favorite. I can't remember. I felt like maybe this one. I thought it was maybe a neutral site game, but maybe not. Maybe it is at Georgia Tech. But Georgia Tech. This one I will talk about for just a minute. Louisville was a team that honestly I felt was like kind of on the rise, and then they had head coaching changes and things. So I know that Louisville's got some talent. I feel like Georgia Tech is probably going to take at least a small step in the right direction, right? And they take the starter from last year from Texas A&M, Haynes King, will be the starter at quarterback for Georgia Tech. You had some really good players transfer out of Georgia Tech this past year, kind of all over the place. So it's going to be interesting to see what Georgia Tech looks like there in Atlanta. And I would rest on the side of Louisville, but with all that being said, you just never know in these games right here, especially first part of the year. Vegas doesn't always have them right. Do you have any thoughts on that game?
Well, first of all, I did fact check that, and it is in Atlanta, but it's at Mercedes-Benz. It's one of the Chick-fil-A kickoff games, so that's their Friday kickoff game. So
road game for Georgia Tech. They got to drive like 5 whole minutes.
They're going to walk to the stadium from their dorms. But yeah, so it might as well be home field advantage for Georgia Tech in some ways. I really don't have a good feel for this. I feel like Brent Key is headed in the right way, in the right direction with this team. Louisville, they've got Braum in at Braum in as a head coach. He kind of returns to his alma mater. I'm excited to see what he does. I think this is, I actually think it's going to be closer. So I would take Georgia Tech in the points here. So I do think that they end up losing, but I think it's going to be a really close game, just given kind of what we saw out of them the latter half of last season. and what Brent Key was able to do with the team, and now he has a full off season to implement his practices and the way he wants to go about things, and also get a lot of transfers, and also a new offensive coordinator. They got Buster Faulkner in there now, who was the protege for Todd Monken last season, so to speak. So
Yeah.
let's see what he does. He did bring a couple of guys over with him, in tight end Brett Seither, and also wide receiver Dominic Blaylock, who I believe was a grad transfer. But both of them, I think, still have some mileage left on them. They should offer an instant impact, and I don't really know what they're doing at quarterback, and they're almost certainly not going to have much of an offensive line, but I'll be excited to see what they scheme up, for Louisville there. And again, on the Louisville side, you got Brom coming in as the new head coach. Used to be a quarterback there, and he's got a lot of energy, and there's a lot of energy around him and a lot of buzz. So he might just be the real deal, Maybe they come out and beat him by 17. But I think that this is going to be a really close game, and I think that I would take the over on the total at 48.5 here. I would go over that for sure, but that's probably the safer play. But I think that Tech does cover at least at the 8 points.
Yeah, well, and Brom has been known to sling that ball around, man. So
Yeah.
I suspect, and Louisville, like I said, they do have talent. Before Satterfield left, they were on a roll getting players, and that Louisville NIL system is strong. They are paying some players to come bring their talents to Louisville. So it'll be interesting to see if that team. Maybe Jeff Rom is the spark that team needed, to get back on track. So I'm looking at Louisville as somebody I'm keeping my eye on this year. And I'm with you on the over. I think if you're going to hit one, I think it's the over at 48.5. That's pretty low for an 8-point spread as well. So that'll be interesting. At 11:05 p.m., the late game, you got Stanford at Hawaii. I'm not going to obviously stay on this game for very long. Stanford is a 3.5-point favorite, 60.5 point over under, which is obviously very high. I would actually take the under on this. I don't think Stanford's going to be scoring a whole bunch of points. But if I was gonna bet this one, honestly, I don't think it would kill you to put a few bucks on Hawaii on the money line. To be honest with you,
that's what I was thinking.
They're the underdog here. You can take the 110 in the points if you want to play the safer bet. But that number's juiced, right? And there's both sides are negative 110, so you're not getting a full match on your bet there. You can take Hawaii on the money line at plus 145, and I think that's a pretty good bet, because what we just saw out of Hawaii was definitely much better than last year. May take a week or two for Vegas to catch up as far as their spreads and numbers and things. I bet you if this line would have came out before the Vandy game, I bet you Stanford was probably about a 10-point favorite, 9, something like that. So I feel like this number's probably come down after we've seen the Rainbow Warriors, and probably. I think Hawaii stands a pretty daggum good chance of beating Stanford, who has not been very good of late. That leads us into Saturday's lineups, and this is where most of the games are right here. And I'm going to go through some of these just for all you fans out there of some of these big teams. There's not every game is a big matchup, but we are going to go through them. At 12:05 p.m. Eastern time, you've got Eastern Carolina at Michigan. Michigan is a 36-point favorite. A lot of points here, 51.5 over under. At 12:05, you got Bowling Green and Liberty at Liberty. Liberty's a 9.5-point favorite. Also at 12:05, you got Arkansas State at Oklahoma. That will be one that I definitely will be keeping an eye on, or at least a box score. Fresno State at Purdue. Purdue's a 3.5-point favorite. Northern Illinois at Boston College. Boston College is a 9.5-point favorite there. Ball State at Kentucky. Kentucky a 26.5-point favorite. Utah State at Iowa. Iowa's a 25-point favorite. That'll be interesting if Cade McNamara will be able to play. There's some deception going on there with the Cade McNamara thing, and I really just don't know what to think. You know, he came out and said some really obscure comment about, you know, I'm getting better through rehab, and that's all I'll say about that. You know, and I don't know what that means, and you know, they're treating it like it's some kind of nuclear secret over there. If Cade McNamara is going to play, but playing Utah State, I don't think it's going to matter this week. But you obviously are going to want your A game going into the Big Ten schedule in weeks following. And that brings us to Colorado at TCU, and we'll break down this one a little bit. As much as you can break down a Colorado team, right? That basically we haven't seen, but between recruiting and transfers, they've got like 80 new players.
Yeah.
So we don't know really what to expect. I mean, I expect Travis Hunter to play both ways at an elite level. I think I really am interested to see Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. I don't feel like Shedeur Sanders has like some kind of rocket arm. Pretty accurate. It's going to be interesting to see how he levels up to a higher level of competition. So what are you thinking about the Colorado TCU game, Mason?
Thinking a lot. I'm thinking I'm really happy that, you know, I finally get to see Travis Hunter for the first time. You know, I haven't been able to watch him on TV at all, you know, and other than highlights, you know, this will be the first time that I'll get to actually see him kind of do his thing, you know, and it's, you know, let the games begin with him and Colorado and Dion, you know, he's, you know, it's his time to shine. And I'm excited to see what he does. That being said, you know, they're probably going to lose by about 28 points this weekend, if I had to guess. But it's not going to make it any less exciting to watch them play. I'm excited to see Shedeur Sanders, who you mentioned, but I don't really know what type of weapons he has around him. I don't expect them to do much at all on the offensive line and you know, protect him. So let's see if he's mobile enough to get away from, you know, all of that pressure, which I'm sure he is. But yeah, overall, I'm ready to see them, and I'm ready to see TCU. You know, it's not all about Colorado, and certainly by the end of the game, I don't think it will be. People will have much to say about them really at all. You know, but I think that TCU is really interesting. You know, obviously coming off of the national championship appearance last season, they've got a lot to prove in, you know, showing up and showing that they weren't a one-hit wonder. And I'm excited to see, you know, what they're able to do and see if they might have a little hangover or not, you know. I don't think they will be. I think that, you know, Sonny Dykes will have that team ready to go. And I think that, you know, installing the new offense under it's Kendall Briles that went there, right?
Yes.
So under Kendall Briles, that'll be a challenge, but I think that they'll be ready for it, and I'd like to see them get a little bit better on defense this year. But you know, overall, I think they should win this handedly. Obviously, the line suggests that. I'm not necessarily, you know, rushing to bet over, or bet that TCU will cover, I guess, and I don't even want to touch the point total, if I'm honest. I have no idea what to expect. 64.5 is a lot of points, you know, to bet over on, but this is a stay away game for me, but I will be staying away and watching from afar with popcorn in hand, you know, just excited as all get out to see this one. I've had it circled for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Colorado, we've talked about them. They're a bit of an enigma. We don't know what they're going to do, but TCU, we got everybody watched TCU last year more than probably we have since, I guess, the early 2000s and the the days of the old ball coach that's got a statue outside the stadium. Last year was unbelievable for TCU, and Sonny Dykes is just got to give the man a round of applause. I mean, he did a fantastic job, and they lose, as you talked about, the offensive coordinator Riley to Clemson, and bring in Kendall Briles from Arkansas, who runs the veer and shoot offense. And I think that this veer and shoot offense is going to really complement Chandler Morris. Chandler Morris was supposed to start last year for TCU. Max Duggan came in whenever he was hurt in the first or second game, and they just never looked back. And so a lot of people have said that Chandler Morris was the more talented of the two quarterbacks, but kind of like a Stetson Bennett situation. It was like, all right, this guy's giving us a spark, and he's playing winning football. We're not gonna mess with it. They lost some serious receiving yards. I mean, they lose Johnston, Barber, and Davis, which equaled out to 150 catches and about 2,000 yards receiving last year. But that TCU is one of those teams that I felt like, as far as the transfer portal hit it, I feel like they hit it really well. They addressed needs and brought in talented guys. You got JoJo Earl coming in from Bama, John Paul Richardson in from Oklahoma State, Jalen Robinson from Ole Miss, Dylan Wright from Minnesota. And those first two guys that I named, are going to need to step up and be somewhat dominant for this offense. I feel like there's no X and Z dominant wide receivers on this team. Going to have a couple guys step up, but they did their very best to address it, and I feel like it's going to work out pretty well for them. So we'll see. If I was to bet this line, I think I'm taking TCU on the spread. But then again, think of all the close games TCU played last year. I mean, they didn't really beat anybody badly, hardly at all. So I'm staying away, just like you said on this one, as far as the bet numbers. But very interested to see that offensive line for TCU. They brought in Tommy Brockermeyer from Alabama, who was really, really, really good. I know Alabama was hating it that he left. Offensive tackle looks good. My questions are on the interior offensive line. You lost Valhalla and Ollie to the NFL. You bring in a guy, Willis Patrick, and Colton Deary is coming in from Maryland. So they need a little more depth, it seemed like. But, the story of all college football teams, you're always going to have somewhere that you don't have the depth you want. And the interior offensive line seems like it may be one of those. And that's going to affect the running backs. And Miller is already gone. But you got Trent Battle back, and you get Trey Sanders, who also comes in from Bama. Trey Sanders is a guy that was really highly acclaimed coming out of high school and got in a car wreck and had some pretty serious injuries as far as that goes. And they say that this dude just looks like a freaking workhorse. Like they said, I've heard that this guy is just unbelievably put together, Trey Sanders. But we'll see how well those legs hang in there throughout the year. And you got a freshman, Cameron Cook, coming in that was a 4-star and somebody to look out for. So with all that being said, I think that TCU is going to come out and put it on them pretty good. But then again, we don't know this Colorado team. And as you can see, I haven't hardly even talked about Colorado because I don't know what they're going to be. So I know more about TCU in this situation. But as you said, we'll stay away and we'll see what happens and try to get a better read on those two teams as the season wears on. I think that's going to be kind of a wait and see on those teams for sure. Anything else on that one?
Nope, that's all I got. Ready to push forward with Saturday.
Yep. So we got at 12:05, we got Virginia and Tennessee. This is not a home game for Tennessee. This is actually being played in Nashville. Tennessee is a 28-point favorite, and the over/under is at 57.5, so pretty high there. I think there's no chance that Virginia puts up a fight in this game. Virginia is one of the worst Power 5 teams in football, I feel like, this year, unless they've just got some kind of surprise in store for us. But with all that being said, everybody's watching the Tennessee quarterback situation and Joe Milton and seeing, are we going to have a Anthony Richardson situation where we've got a freakazoid back there that can't exactly win you games, but it's fun to watch, or are we going to have more of a polished look quarterback in a system that seems to be plug and play? With the Josh Heupel offense is, I think, very quarterback friendly. So, with all that being said, I think that Tennessee routes Virginia, and if I had to take a line, there's no way I'm taking Virginia to cover. I just can't do that in good conscience. So, if I'm taking a number on this one, it's going to be minus 28. You have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I agree. Minus 28 is where I would go. This is actually one I would probably play both. I would go minus 28 and over 57.5, and kind of win. I just think that number's too low for Tennessee, who is known for their offense. They put up close to 70 against Clemson last season at the end of the year with Joe Milton at quarterback. So we've already, gotten a look at that, and a little bit different on the offensive line. They're playing, I think it's 2 new tackles. I know it's 2 new positions on the O-line, but a little bit different there on the offensive line, a little bit different at receiver, but I don't expect there to be any drop-off in this offense at all. So I think 57.5 is a little low. I think Tennessee scores that on their own, and I don't think that their defense is good enough to shut out Virginia entirely. I think it could be like a 53-14 type game, and you're covering on both ends there. I would actually bet on both of those, and I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. It's going to be on the defense, and this is a perfect opportunity for Tennessee's defense to slowly step into the season. And they shouldn't give up more than 14 points. And if they do, then, I'm starting to wonder if it's the same situation that we saw last year, because Virginia is just awful. So they shouldn't be going up and down the field on Tennessee in any realm of possibility. So I suspect that Tennessee will cover that and put a whooping on them pretty good. Moving on, you got Louisiana Tech, SMU. SMU's a 20-point favorite there. Seems a little high to me, but I don't know too much about those teams. So, Vegas knows a lot more than I do. At 205, you got Akron and Temple. 335, Ohio State, Indiana. So you got Ohio State, 30-point favorite for Indiana. And this is a road game. Kind of odd, it seems like, for them to start off with a Big Ten game, right? This kind of a weird situation there, but
you've also got Minnesota, Nebraska starting off. So the Big Ten, they've got 9 games in their conference schedule, so they got to fit them in kind of wherever they can. But I don't think we need to spend too much time on this. It's they're 30-point favorites for a reason. They may not cover that. I think that Ryan Day is going to want to play around with this. Quarterback competition going on, and he'll probably need to let a lot of his receivers get some reps in case one of them goes down. They almost every season have one of them at least get hurt. So but they've always got some really talented guys to cover down there. And also I'm anxious to see this offensive line and what it can do. I've heard some people saying that they'll be the best defense in college football. I doubt that. I seriously doubt that. But I do think that they're a veteran group, and I do think that they could be the best in the Big Ten. I think that right now, at face value, Michigan should be head and shoulders above both Ohio State and Penn State. But I get where people are saying that because of their talent level. They're going to have to take a pretty big step forward if they're going to pass Michigan and be a better defense, even or even than Penn State for that matter. I'm excited to watch it. There's not going to be too much to draw for them facing Indiana, but I'm excited to see what they're able to do at quarterback and the decision that they make, and kind of just how those two play. I expect both of them to get in. So I'd like to see kind of what each of them's able to do.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is we're going to get a chance to see both quarterbacks in this game for sure. So I'm interested to see who takes the first snap. That's going to be interesting to me, and I think we'll probably tell you a little bit about the situation. I don't think it's an end all be all as far as who's going to be getting all the reps throughout the year, but I think it'll be interesting to see if it's Devin Brown or Kyle McCord taking those first snaps. And I know everybody's interested to see, and not to get off topic or anything, but I watched another college football show, a very prominent one that was on last night, and somebody who has an opinion that I do respect, but they had Ohio State going to the national championship this year, and playing Alabama in the national championship, and had Georgia and Michigan not winning either of their conferences or even making the playoffs. So, there is a line of thinking out there that Ohio State is going to have a dominant defense this year, and maybe take a little bit of a step back on offense. But I mean, gosh, they got weapons everywhere. I don't think it's going to be much of a step back. But people are expecting Jim Knowles' defense to take a huge step up in year number 2, and it'll be interesting to see. We're not going to be able to tell a ton. Indiana won 1 or 2 games last year. They've been really bad for a while now. So I expect the Buckeyes to put it on the Hoosiers pretty good. And honestly, if I was going to bet, I don't like betting 30-point lines, but if I was going to bet, I'd bet them by more than 30. Now I'm not betting this game, but you would have to. I mean, it's unbelievable the number here. You'd have to bet. Am I reading this correctly? 30,000 to win $100.
To win $100
on the money line.
But if you bet 100, but if you bet 100 on Indiana, you only get 2,800.
Right. Okay. Very interesting there. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but hey, they don't build them big buildings in Vegas on losing and not making good lines. So, but anyway, we'll keep it moving. It'll be everybody will tune in to see what Ohio State looks like, not so much for the matchup there. Moving on, we got Buffalo at Wisconsin. Wisconsin 27.5-point favorite. It's another situation there where everybody's going to want to see what Wisconsin is up to. Kind of a mystery team. Haven't let a whole lot of information out from camp over there. So it's going to be interesting to see what Luke Fickell can do. Boise State at Washington. Washington is a 14.5-point favorite. This one actually kind of intrigues me. This is a 3:35 game. So you got basically the noon start out there on the West Coast. And I think this one's pretty interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how Washington holds up without Cam Davis. What are going to be the answers there as far as, who's going to take the RB1 position by, get a stranglehold on that. I expect Washington to win and cover here. That would be my play. But the 14 and a hook is a tough line to bet there. So buyer beware. But 58.5-point over under on this game, and only a plus 500 on the money line for Boise State. So Vegas is feeling like there is a chance here. You got anything on that game?
No, I mean that's one that I circled and said, "Hey, this is pretty exciting to watch, or should be exciting to watch, I should say." And um, of the 3:30 slate, I think this is probably the most exciting one.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
I hope it's not on the Pac-12 network, but
I know it.
it probably is. So, but yeah, I'm excited to watch this, and I don't really know what to expect from Boise State other than the fact that they're a tough team to play every year.
Yeah.
And I don't expect this to be any different. And yeah, we get a chance to see Michael Penix Jr. And what he's able to do. I'm excited. I do think that they cover. But it may be one of those deals where they just pull away late. I think this will be a little bit of a ball game through the third quarter, or into the third quarter at least. But yeah, I'm excited to see this next one too. Massachusetts and Auburn. We just saw UMass, come in and um, you know upset, UTEP there, and gosh, it was fun to watch the highlights. Fumichan, just really did his thing out there and was running all over the place, and just showed a lot of heart, and against a team that everybody's gonna be really good. So they're coming in with some momentum now. Am I saying that they have a chance to beat Auburn? No, there's not even a money line on that game. So, so Vegas doesn't think there's a chance either. But I do think that I think that they could cover. This could be a case where Auburn maybe doesn't get as many backups in as it would like. By the end of the game, you're looking at it and going, "Man, we didn't even take our starters out until the fourth quarter." And whereas maybe they would expect to earlier than that, um, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see what Auburn does at quarterback. My understanding is that this is going to be Peyton Thorne's chance. He's going to get the chance as the starter more than likely. But they they do have Robbie Ashford. And look, I mean, I did some for them last season. But at the end of the day, I think that he's a little bit too one-dimensional and is still struggling a little bit to pick up this offense, and may just be going through some growing pains here and kind of hitting a ceiling a little bit. But I'm excited to see Garen or Holden or
Holton Garner. Yeah.
Garner, excuse me. He's
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the redshirt freshman who has apparently just really sharp here as a
We're losing you a bit there, Mason.
not good enough to overtake Peyton, but and say, okay, first between him and Robbie Ashford, Gardner. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're breaking up pretty good there. Yeah, I just want to, with Auburn, I think that you're definitely going to see some packages with Robbie Ashford, and it's definitely going to be Peyton Thorne's team. I'm very interested to see, though. I think that they need to establish the run. If Auburn can't run the ball, then everything else is going to be moot this year, and they should be able to. But it's a brand new offensive line, and I don't know what to expect. I mean, it's in an entirely different offensive line. So I'm definitely interested to see that and see how things progress for the Auburn offense. Let's move it on down to South Florida, Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky is an 11.5-point favorite there. Rice at Texas. I expect Texas to put it on Rice pretty good. You got JT Daniels out there. I don't expect that to be much of a game. Obviously, Vegas doesn't either. 35-point favorite for the Longhorns. At 4:05, you got Cal at North Texas. Cal is a 7-point favorite there. I wouldn't bet on that one, but North Texas has been pretty good the last few years, so that should be a good game. 6:35, you got Nevada at USC. We'll get USC. We'll see if they can play a little bit better defense, and Nevada is not a good team at all, so that should be an easy win where the backups get some playing time there for sure. 7:05, you got Texas State at Baylor. Baylor's a 26.5-point favorite there. Washington State at Colorado State. Washington State is a road favorite there at Colorado State by 12. New Mexico at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a 38-point favorite. Woo, Lord.
Wow.
Big line there. Huge line. My goodness. I didn't see that one last night. Wow. 38-point favorite, and the over-under is 49. So they are expecting, a thrashing over there for sure, and not a lot of points given up by Texas A&M. So it'll be obviously everybody's going to be trying to figure out who's calling plays and what A&M's going to look like. I wouldn't be surprised to see New Mexico cover, just due to the fact that they're not going to be giving up their offense at this point in the year and showing everybody what's going on. I mean, I seriously doubt that. Moving on down the line, 7:05 p.m., Texas San Antonio at Houston. Texas San Antonio, that's UTSA. They're a 1-point favorite over Houston, the new Big 12 edition. That should be a really good game. It's the Roadrunners have made a name for themselves the last couple of years. Finished up in the top 25 last year, I believe, and saw them in a few different people's top 25 poll to start the year. It wasn't in either one of ours, but I will tune into that a little bit to see what the fuss is all about with UTSA and Houston. We've done a preview on, and we expect to have a pretty tough year transitioning into the Big 12. They really need this win. Honestly, if they have any chance of making a bowl game, you're going to have to win this game right here. So that's going to be a good one, and Vegas expects it to be a good one. So we'll see what happens there. 7:05, we got Army, UL Monroe. 7:35, we've got the big boy, and I'll run through these other 7:35 games real quick, and then we'll come back to that one. Toledo at Illinois. Illinois is a 9-point favorite there. Texas Tech at Wyoming. Don't know why they're going to Wyoming. That's stupid. Texas Tech is a 14-point favorite. Middle Tennessee State at Alabama. Alabama's a 39-point favorite there. And West Virginia at Penn State. We'll break that one down here in just a second. So North Carolina, South Carolina, that's the biggest game in my opinion, the best matchup of probably the day, honestly, but definitely of the nightcap there. North Carolina, South Carolina. This is a neutral site game. North Carolina is a 2.5-point favorite as it sits right now, and the over/under sits at 64.5. First of all, if you're looking for value on bets, South Carolina is a plus 115 on the money line. Okay, just going to throw that out there, and we'll talk more on these betting lines Friday, and we'll see how these things move as time goes on. But that's one I'm keeping my eye on right there, because at a 2.5-point favorite, this is basically a pick 'em, and right, they're giving you plus money there on the money line. So if I was looking for value, that's great value right there. Now, with all that being said, they got to go play the game, and we talked about on our injuries list some of the injuries that South Carolina is dealing with right now with Juice Wells. They got an offensive tackle that was going to be starting. He's out for the season. Trey Knox is hurt, and I don't expect him to be playing this first game. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but they're saying Juice Wells should be ready, and it seems like he probably will play at least some. So Is South Carolina going to have enough defense to slow this North Carolina offense down? What's your take on this, Mason?
Um, so overall, I do think that South Carolina is just going to be a little bit better on defense than North Carolina, and I think that ends up being the reason that they do win this game. If this were a pick 'em, I'm still picking South Carolina. I think that is a good bet on the money line at plus 115. I'm staying away from the over under, and I would obviously take South Carolina in the points. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think that the South Carolina defense and defensive backs are going to make a little bit more of an impression than North Carolina's. I don't think that the Gamecocks are all that great on defense necessarily, but I think that North Carolina is probably really bad. You know, I I could see them making a step forward or taking a step forward from last season in year 2 under Gene Chizik, but ultimately, I think that what wins this game for South Carolina is their defense, and on offense, I think that they're both pretty electric already. If South Carolina is playing like they were at the end of last season, then under Spencer Rattler, then I think that they're as equally or equally as potent of an offense as North Carolina, even with Drake May, who's obviously a much better quarterback than Spencer Rattler. But from a production standpoint, and playing within the system, he's really not that much better, I don't think. Um, so I'll be anxious to see, the box score at the end to compare the two and what they do. And look, Rattler's got to be taking it as a challenge and a test. Most competitors would, right? It's a lot of times you pin the two quarterbacks against each other, like I just did. So he's got to be saying that and going, you know what, we're coming out of the draft together. Here's a chance for me to make some money. For anybody who's watching this game, any NFL teams that are going to go back and watch this game, I want to show them that I can hang with Drake May, and I can be a first round quarterback again, like everybody thought that I would be.
Yeah, and it took Spencer Rattler a little bit to get going last year, and I don't suspect that it'll take quite as long to get going. But with all that being said, North Carolina's offense, I think, is going to be really, really good this year. I think that it's probably in the first game of the year. I think it may end up being a little bit much for for South Carolina. I know I just said that it's great value, and it is a good value to take them on the money line if you think they're going to win. I don't think they're going to win. I think North Carolina wins this game. I think the offense is just too much. I mean, they've got about 5 running backs that are good, at least good, and a couple of them I'm thinking might be really good. But you bring in Devontae Walker from Kent State, who was a really, really good receiver last year. Nate McCullum comes in from Georgia Tech, who was one of the more talented guys on the offense for Georgia Tech last year. You return all 3 of your tight ends. Lots of experience returning on the offensive line. These are just a lot of these things are things I can't say about South Carolina. And whereas North Carolina's defense was horrible last year and South Carolina was serviceable, I think that Carolina, I hope that they take a step up.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure that they will, but they stuck with Gene Chizik again for defensive coordinator this year. Defensive line is going to be an issue for them this year, and it's a depth issue. We could say that about probably at least 40% of college football. I mean, there's a deficiency at defensive line. These types of guys don't grow on trees, but I don't think that South Carolina is going to have an overly oppressive offensive line. So, with all that being said, I think North Carolina comes out with the win here. I think the offense is just too much. I could see them winning 35-28 or 42-35, something like that. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Should be very, very fun to watch. I can't wait to see Drake May. Obviously, he was one of the best one of the best players in college football, in my opinion. Definitely one of the best quarterbacks. He's just a highly competitive guy, really good kid, and can't wait to see him out there on the field again this year. And can't wait to see what happens with this defense. You had a bunch of players transfer out, and I think that was on purpose. I think they told them, said, there's the door. So out with the old, in with the new. Let's see if it makes a difference for North Carolina. But for week 1, I'm taking them. They're a 2.5-point favorite. I don't know if I'd want to give up the 2.5. The juice ain't that much different. If you're betting North Carolina on this game, I mean, it's minus 110 on the over under there, or excuse me, on the spread, and it's minus 135 on the money line. So, in my opinion, give them the 2.5 and take the minus 135 there, and you're not talking about a huge penalty for 3 points right there. You're basically buying 3 points, and not sacrificing a ton of percentage on your return there. So if you're betting North Carolina, I'd go money line. If you're betting South Carolina, I'd go money line. 2.5 is close. Anything else on that game, Mason?
Just real quick, Andre Green, sophomore wide receiver, is one who's on the second string there. I think you can get a lot of value out of him in any sort of draft lineup if he's available. If they do this game, which I'm sure they will. This is one of the bigger games of the weekend, but he's one that you may be able to get in the 4,000s, and I think that he will actually play a pretty good bit. And he's certainly talented enough to play, but I'm going to do a little bit more digging before I lock him in, but he's one that I've got an eye on for this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everybody watching, Mason won a little bit of money last week. Not just a simple little, couple bucks put on the line up there and won a few bucks and not too bad. It's never a bad thing to get a positive return on a week that you didn't really hardly even know some of these guys, right?
Right.
So
it was I got $2 on a $4 bet. So if you break it down, that's a 50% return on investment.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine if you would have bet the max there, buddy. You would have taken a couple more grand with you to Scotland on your trip there. So
like the old bear says, the less you bet, the more you lose when you win. That's how it goes.
Absolutely. Minimize those losses one way or another, right?
That's right.
Well, moving on down the line, 7:35. Oh, we already went through 7:35 games. So let's go down to the other headliner that's at 7:35, and that's West Virginia at Penn State. And we got Penn State as a 20.5-point favorite. 50.5-point over under. What's your thoughts?
That's a tough 20.5 is really a lot higher than I expected. I know West Virginia's not that great, but I thought that they were a little bit higher on West Virginia this year than that. But apparently not. 20.5 is where they've got it. I do expect Penn State to cover that. It's just a really tight line for me. If I could find it at 20, then maybe I would bet that. But, I would still be pretty apprehensive to do that even, as Penn State's probably still working out some of the kinks. But yeah, I think this is a really good team on defense and offense. They were very balanced last year, and I think that they'll continue to remain very balanced, but be more productive on both sides of the ball. In case you missed it, Penn State is one that I do have in my college football playoff at the end of the season. I think that they sneak away with a win against Michigan and lose to Ohio State this year. But yeah, just a solid team all around. I think that they do cover this team. I'm just a little surprised that Vegas is already kind of ahead of the curve on this. I don't know why it surprises me, but you think you've got a good beat on a team, and you're gonna win one out against Vegas, but apparently not. They're always a step ahead.
Yeah, well, I really could see like a 28-7 victory by Penn State this game and barely clear that line and go under on the over under for the game. So it really just occurred to me, and I'm gonna feel this out more as the week goes on for our Friday show. But I think I might go under on that one. At 50.5 seems a little high. I think Penn State's going to be pretty happy to run the ball and play keep away and slowly acclimate this new quarterback, Drew Aller. So I could see like a 28-7 type victory here, where it's an authoritative win, but at the same time, it's I don't think I'm seeing Penn State putting up 50 points or anything. Anything like that. West Virginia, I mean, Neil Brown's seat is the hottest of anybody in the nation, obviously, right? I mean, this guy, if he doesn't win a game by the first week of October, I think they'll probably get him out of there. There's a lot of talk in Morgantown about getting him out, but at the same time, there's also talk going on in Morgantown that they're 2 years behind on fundraising. So, you know, if you're 2 years behind on sports fundraising, then are you going to be able to afford a buyout? You know, because you're not going to fire them with cause. So I don't know how they're going to handle that situation. It's going to be interesting to watch. But nobody's seat is hotter, I don't think, than Neil Brown at West Virginia. But I expect Penn State to cover the spread, but probably barely. And like I said, if I'm gonna take a look at that under and watch that under towards the end of the week, and hopefully it doesn't creep down too far by Friday. Hopefully people come in and bet it up and give us another point or two by Friday. Anything else on that game?
No, that's all I got on that.
All right, we got Old Dominion at Virginia Tech. So last year, Old Dominion hosted Virginia Tech and beat them, and was just embarrassing. And Virginia Tech is really bad again. I am honestly, Vegas obviously knows something I don't, because I think 16's too high here. But they are going to Virginia Tech. You know, I don't know a ton about Old Dominion, so Vegas definitely knows more than I do on this one. But if I was just glancing at it, I would take Old Dominion on that. Virginia Tech is the state of Virginia and college football are just not meshing right now, and then it's really a shame because there's a lot of talent in Virginia. A lot of high school football players, good high school football players in the state of Virginia. So they need to get their crap together, and they dealt with some exterior issues last year that were beyond their control. And you know, everybody knows about the tragedy that happened in Virginia last year that rocked both universities, not just one. So it'll be interesting to see actually how bad they are, honestly. You got at 8:05, you got South Alabama at Tulane. Tulane's 6.5-point favorite. Tulane's going to be really good again this year. Newsflash, they've been good. Just come off the victory over Southern Cal. It's weird to say that, but Tulane is coming off a big-time bowl victory over Southern Cal. That doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but Tulane's pretty good. 10:20 p.m., you got Sam Houston State at BYU. Man, I tell you what, there's some BYU haters out there, buddy. I've heard that this team is going to be last in the Big 12, and I don't think that at all. I don't think they're going to be that bad. And I think they're going to beat Sam Houston State by more than 20. BYU, I've actually done a pretty decent dive in. We're not going to dive into this game, but Sam Houston going out to BYU, that place is going to be popping, dude. There won't be an empty seat in the house. And it's a really cool stadium out there, but they do have a really good home field advantage. Sam Houston State is a talented team. They are in the state of Texas, and Houston right there. They do get a lot of talent. So, but I would take BYU in that one. 10:35 p.m. Coastal Carolina at UCLA. I heard somebody, the same person I was talking about earlier, picked UCLA to go to the Pac-12 championship game. I thought that was pretty interesting, as I have them ranked in my top 20 preseason. So I'll be interested to see if it's going to be Dante Moore out there slinging the rock around for UCLA. I'm really excited to see that freshman. He will play at some point this year. I just don't know when. But Coastal Carolina is a 14.5-point road dog at UCLA. If you don't have any comments on any of those games, let's go into Sunday.
I'm ready for it. Bring it on.
All right, Sunday we got a smaller slate here, and obviously Monday we only have one game, so we'll dive into these. Northwestern at Rutgers. So this game tells me one thing, and it's that Northwestern and Rutgers are both not going to go without a win because they play each other. That's the only thing that this tells me. So somebody's got to win this game. That's that they can call that one the toilet bowl because who cares? 3:35 p.m. on Sunday, Oregon State at San Jose State. Why are they playing at San Jose State? That's ignorant. It's stupid. It's a dumb idea, bad idea. Take San Jose State and the 16.5. I think they're going to keep it closer. This is a feisty team that's going to be really good in their conference, and they just got a taste of the big boys. They're hungry. I guarantee you, San Jose State is flying. They're walking on water right now. They just put up almost 30 points on Southern Cal, and kept it close for a half. I foresee a team playing with some confidence, a good quarterback, and Oregon State is going to be breaking in DJU, and they're going to be running the ball. So 54.5 seems like a lot to me on the over-under for this game. And I'm going to keep an eye on it to bet the under there because I know what Oregon State wants to do. They want to run the ball. San Jose State doesn't mind running the ball either, as they ran for 200 yards on USC. So with that being said, I see a couple plays on this game. You got any takes on this one?
No, I'm just really excited to see DJU. With a new team, gets a little bit of a new fresh start. He's been talking a lot about how much happier he is with this team and with this offense. So now he's got to back that up. I think he's probably made some people mad over there in Clemson, but now he's kind of got to prove his point here a little bit and drive it home. Not in this week necessarily. I think it's the start to a situation in at Oregon State that they haven't really been in, where a lot of the country's watching. It's definitely he's bringing a lot of people's attention with him. So including mine. I'm anxious to see what he's able to do out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some Oregon State people that watch the show every once in a while. I've seen you guys out on the geographical analytics for our views and things, and you all guys have ate up the Oregon State video, and I know you're watching, and I've got you in my top 25, and I think that they're going to be good. I just think that this will be just kind of a tough situation to start with. You don't need to be going to San Jose State to go play a football game. You need to be having San Jose State come to your place like they did USC. So with all that, breaking in some new things on offense, I think it'll probably take a minute, and I could see, like I said, both teams running the ball or attempting to run the ball, and maybe bring this total in under the 54.5 of the over-under that Vegas has set. 7:35 p.m. We got the big bad game of the week, in my opinion, and everybody else's opinion. Top 10 matchup here in LSU and Florida State. This one is a neutral site game. It was played in Orlando last year, I believe, and this year will be in New Orleans. Is that correct? I know they swapped them back and forth. They did a neutral site in Florida and then a neutral site in Louisiana.
Okay.
So this one is a 2.5 point favorite for the LSU Tigers, 58-point over under. And you know what? You've actually got, this blows my mind. You got positive money on Florida State on the money line.
Right.
Vegas is bullish on this one, and it seems like they are just baiting you to take that money line for Florida State. So, without further ado, let's get into the big honcho here. What you got, Mason, on this one?
Well, as far as the breakdown goes, I mean, look, you've got a lot returning for LSU, and a lot even more returning for Florida State. This is really, to me, this game's all about who's gotten better since the last time we faced. Because they've had the same amount of days, right? They've got a similar amount of returning talent. So, which team is getting better developed? We know LSU's more talented. As far as from a high school recruiting standpoint, Florida State has done a better job of using the transfer portal, but they've had to do that. They've got less than 50% in their blue chip ratio of 4 and 5 star players. So they've kind of done what they've had to match what some of these top tier programs are doing around the country. Really excited to see this. If you look position group by position group, I look at quarterback, Jaden Daniels and Jordan Travis. I'm calling that a push. I don't give either one the edge there. At running back, I would say Florida State has a little bit of the edge there. On offensive line, I'm giving that edge to LSU. And so we're pretty much 1-1 there. Wide receivers, I would definitely say LSU. And I'll throw the tight ends with that, tight ends and wide receivers. And then as far as the defense goes, I would give the defensive line interior to LSU, but I think that Florida State has better edge rushers. And then I would call the linebackers a push, and I would also call the secondary a push. They're both not that great in the secondary, in my opinion. But overall, I mean, if you go position group by position group, LSU might have a slight edge. So that being said, I mean, I think that this is a pretty good number here at 2.5. If you had me bet on it, I would say that LSU could cover that and win by at least a field goal. Just because most teams are decided by at least a field goal. So, and I think that LSU is going to win this game, even with it being in Florida. But man, this is one of the best games. It was one of the best games of the season last year, really. And it was a great one to start with, and I think it will be again this year. For both teams, whoever loses, like, you're not out of it, right? But it definitely will help keep you in that, top 10, top 5 range throughout the rest of the season, and help keep you in people's thoughts as a playoff contender. I'm really excited to see sort of the matchup, and I'm actually in the trenches specifically. I'm anxious to see what Florida State's defensive front is able to do against LSU's offensive line. I think, like many games, this one's going to be won in the trenches, but I think that LSU is going to be a little bit better up front, and that's where I give them the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said it right. The game is in Florida. It's at Camping World Stadium in Orlando. So last year it was in New Orleans. First of all, if I'm making a play on this game, I'm busting the over on the 58.
There you go.
And if you're listening to this and you're looking for a bet on that, I would bet that now, because I think that number is probably going to go up as the week goes on. As you mentioned, I don't think either one of these teams' strengths is their secondary on their defense. I know it's not for LSU. Florida State is the one who's got some more. They added. They both did. They both added a lot of transfers. LSU's secondary is almost exclusively transfers. So really, they're both kind of an unknown as far as that goes. And LSU, I think that's kind of their Achilles heel this year, is why I bring it up. I think that that's probably going to be the aspect of their team that stops them from getting where they want to go. But with all that being said, I like the over. I like over 58 here. I am super interested to see how LSU is able or not able to run the ball. If Florida State wants to win this game, I think it's a playmaker is going to have to be Jared Verse. He's going to have to make plays on LSU's quarterback if they're looking to win this game, and he's going to need to probably have a couple sacks and a tackle or two for loss type game from him. And he's a top 5 edge rusher in the game, so it's very, very possible. But I think this will be a better offensive line than what we saw from LSU last year. So it will be interesting to see how they hold up against a very talented front seven for Florida State. That's who's going to be able to establish running the ball. I think is probably, I think you're a wash on scoring points in the air, but whichever team can figure out how to run the ball after they get a lead and run the clock and nuke the game, I think is probably going to be the one that ends up taking the victory here at a 2.5 point spread. Obviously, Vegas has got this damn near coin flip, right? So, and maybe even a point of that is since the game's played in Florida. But I'm taking, if I'm betting this, I'm betting the over, and if I'm taking a team, I'm taking LSU to win, and I'd probably take the 2.5 point spread there on that one. Anything else on that game, Mason? I can't wait to watch that one. That's going to be freaking fantastic. That was a great game last year. Everybody remembers that. That just like set the tone for college football last year for a crazy year.
It really did, and I do think that it will be similarly a crazy game. I wonder how much of a takeaway we can glean from this game, being that if one team just gets absolutely throttled, do we take them out of the playoff hunt? If Florida State, yes. and I think it would more than likely be Florida State who you would take out if they lose. I mean, don't get me wrong, they could come back and beat Clemson twice, but at that point, you might just say, man, maybe the ACC is just really down this year. Maybe Clemson's just not as good as we thought, if they get absolutely beat by LSU. But then there's a case to be made if Clemson beats Notre Dame, and maybe they are good, So overall, I don't think that this game's going to matter too much, win or lose. But I do wonder if LSU beats Florida State by 21, what are we saying? What's the knee jerk reaction there, and are people kind of throwing them off the cliff at that point?
I'm not big on talking about playoffs during the regular season, but it is a reality of our game these days. And I have to say, whichever team loses here is, in my eyes, like 95% chance they're out of the playoff, because I don't see either one of them getting through the whole rest of the year without another loss, and we're not going to have a 2-loss team in the playoff this year. We never have, and it's not going to start this year, I don't believe. So whoever does lose this game, their backs against the wall the entire rest of the year, and I expect my picks were for both of these teams to play for their respective conference championships. So that's an extra chance to lose right there too. So I am kind of whoever loses this game, you're out of my playoff picture, to be honest with you, because like I said, neither one of these is going undefeated the rest of the year, I don't believe.
Yeah, it would take a lot to get them back in, and a lot from other teams. Obviously LSU would have to, if they were to lose, would have to come back, beat Alabama, and also, win the SEC. It would make for a tough road. And whereas if they win this game, they could lose to Alabama and not make it to the SEC championship game. And if Alabama beat Georgia, you'd probably have LSU in over Georgia. So I could definitely see that happening. But tougher road for Florida State coming out of the ACC. And if they were to lose.
Yeah, I think so too. It's hey, it's crazy to say that. That's why college football is so good. And I'm not going to get on this long spill about this, but this is why I'm opposed to these huge playoff fields, because if you got a huge playoff field, I feel like neither one of these teams cares if they lose this game. It doesn't matter at all. But with the 4-team playoff that we have now, this game does matter. It's like a playoff game in week 1. And that's what makes college football so damn good. And I really don't want to see that go away. This game is not near as big if you've got a 12, 16, or 24 team playoff, because one team could lose it 49-0 and still make the playoff, and still lose regular season games, and they're still going to get to go where they want to go, and so that's a perfect example of a game that's going to lose luster as we add teams, but not this year. We've got a 14 playoff, and I'm thankful for it, because it's going to be a really, really, really fun year to see who makes the Final Four. And moving on to the last game, and the only game of Monday at 8:05 p.m., we've got Clemson and Duke, and I believe this one is in Mercedes-Benz. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
We need to look it up. It may be.
I got it.
Maybe in Charlotte. But nonetheless, we got Clemson and Duke. You got Clemson as a 13-point favorite. 55.5 over under on this game. Pretty good bit of points there. And you got Duke at plus 350 on the money line. Clemson minus 450. I have already been loud and proud and cocky about Duke, and I'm going to stick to it, but I'm going to be a chicken about it, and I'm going to take the 13 points. And I'm going to go bet this line, and I feel like Vegas is trying to make you bet on Clemson by doing a 13-point line here. I think they're trying to convince Clemson believers that they'll win by 14 and at least and cover this. And I think there's going to be some reverse action on this as we get closer. Vegas sets spreads at what they think will make people bet on the spread, and I think this one is a bit of a trap. They're daring you to, they're begging you to take Clemson in that minus 13. And I don't think the casual fan understands what Duke has going on right now. And you've got literally a nine-man rotation at defensive line at Duke. Riley Leonard is a hell of a quarterback, led the team in passing and rushing last year. Dude is tough as nails. And I don't see this being as good of a Clemson defense as what we've seen in the years past. Can that defensive line get after Cade Klubnik? I think they can. And if you rush him off his spot, I feel like it's going to be a long day for him, especially considering that, I don't think that there's a whole lot of like game changer wide receivers at Clemson. So I feel like this is like the perfect setup. I've had my eye on this one for a while. I'm not going to chicken out completely. If Duke wins this daggone thing, I'm going to be so pissed because they're a plus 350 on the money line, and I'm too chicken to take it. But there's money to be made possibly on this game, in my opinion. And I'm going to take the 13 points, and now we'll be putting some money on this game this week, and we'll see how things go. What are your thoughts on the Clemson and the Dukies?
Well, first of all, this game is in Durham, North Carolina, so it is a neutral site, but not the kickoff game, Chick-fil-A kickoff that you had mentioned. But yeah, like you, I'm pretty high on Duke this season. I'm ready to see Mike Elko, and how they're able to progress this year. I think that they've got a tough road. Clemson's my pick to win the ACC this year. I do think that Clemson is going to kind of bounce back from last season, and kind of I guess revert back towards the median here a little bit and show some progress. And specifically under Garrett Riley, I think that this is going to be a really good offense if they've got it down right now, and if Kate Klubnik has things figured out. I'm excited to see what they're able to do. I think they're going to be really good on defense again. I don't think that they're going to be as good as they have been in the past on defense. I think that that there is going to be some regression there, just given all that they've lost. But ultimately, I think that they're much better on offense and a much more balanced team. I'm excited to see what they're able to do. But gosh, against Duke, it's going to be really tough. A defensive led team, but I guess I'm kind of with you with the points. Kind of going Duke's way and having Duke cover. If you had to have me bet on it, this is a stay away game for me. But yeah, I think I would lean your way with that, and take Duke in the points.
Yeah, I could see like a 32-22 type of game, something kind of funky like that. But I could see like a 10-point win by Clemson if everything goes well. Duke won 9 games last year and lost a game that they shouldn't have also with that. So really should have won 10 games last year. And they lost one of their games literally on the last play, and it was a freak thing. And it does happen in football. And it was literally a bounce of ball type thing. So the ball ain't round; it's oval shaped, and it bounces funny ways sometimes. And it didn't. It was like the only game of the year that it didn't bounce Duke's way. It seemed like. But with all that, all that information there, I've just got this gut feeling about it, and I'm going to do the plus 13 on the spread, and I'm going to trust that Mike Elko and Riley Leonard can take me to the promised land, and yeah, that's going to be one. Everybody's going to be watching that. It's the only game on, and everybody's going to want to see what's going on with the Clemson offense with the new offensive coordinator coming in from TCU. So it's going to be interesting to see, man. I can't wait to see some of these teams, and we're here. It's time, and I just want to real quick remind everybody. Please go ahead and like and subscribe and come hang out with us and follow the page so that we can get you notifications whenever new content available. We're getting this thing going this year, and it's going to be really fun. Kind of just go over some of the schedule for this next week. Mason is going to be he's going to be out of reach but not out of touch. We're going to do a quick Friday show on some of these betting lines. I want to dive into them a little bit more and see what the line movement looks like as we get a little bit closer to game time on some of these. I feel like unders are going to be a big play, so we're watching for unders to maybe some of these spreads to come down, over unders to come down, and we'll mash some of those unders. But we hope you enjoyed the show today, and we hope that you'll come back and hang out with us here on 1st and Long. And I will see everybody on Friday. And don't forget to hit that like button. Mason, hope you have a good trip, buddy. And we'll have you on for some reactions to week 1 next week. And you're going to get me your college football fantasy stuff sent over so we can get your picks on that, so you can share the love with us, and everybody else can win some of that money that you won last week. And we look forward to that, and I can't wait to see these teams, man. It's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, here, little tip for everyone out there: do not let your wife or significant other plan a vacation for you, because they will inevitably draw you away from your favorite thing in life, and take you away from college football. And and also don't get married on the first weekend of college football. of the season, and just there's a couple of life lessons there, that I wish somebody would have grabbed me by the shoulder and told me whenever I was going through that and growing up. But anyway, so
well, you should have told our buddy Jay that, because I'll be going to Virginia in September. I have a wedding on September 16th, and luckily that's not like a super killer week as far as football goes. There is a lot of conference games starting, but it's mostly not marquee matchups. But nonetheless, I'll be out on the Chesapeake Bay watching our buddy Jay get married. Shout out to Jay and Brianna. I know you're not watching because you don't even know about the show yet. But with all that being said, friends don't let friends get married in college football season, and that's something that we've learned. And maybe we didn't walk the walk, but we'll tell you about it now. Well, be careful out there.
Jay is a Florida fan, so maybe he's just kind of out of touch with college football these days.
Yeah, he's a Florida Gators fan that has decided that he's just going to go all in on the Atlanta Braves. And and I think that's probably a respectable play on his part. I don't think Florida will have a great year this year, but hey, Gators fans, hang in there. Come hang out with us. We'll try to. We won't mince our words, but we'll treat you with some dignity and respect around here, nonetheless. So come on and hang out with us at 1st and Long, and thank you those of you that have tuned in throughout the show, and anybody watching on a recording. Come hang out with us live, and be watching this weekend for my reaction videos, because I will be posting, and I will be fired up. That is a warning. So, and I will respond accordingly to whatever happens in the games. So, with all that being said, Mason, be safe on your travels. I'll talk to you very soon. And for 1st and Long Nation, we will see all of you next time. Thank you.
Thanks.